Coming up on 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered, Jasmine makes a flurry of serious accusations, claiming she was the victim of racist attacks from her co stars and that TLC put her life in danger. Gino finally shows proof Jasmine cheated. I have the pics and videos you didn't see on the show, plus the truly heartbreaking end to Julia and Brandon's pregnancy journey. Lots of cast updates today as we recap this week's brand new episode of Happily Ever After. Straight ahead. Welcome back, friends. I feel like I can finally say happy holidays. I've been waiting to do that. And of course, Happily Ever After Tell All No Limits is the gift that keeps on giving. There is so much to discuss. Even so that the cast is still talking about last week's Tell All Part 1 on social media. Lots of bombshells were dropped there. And I think before we get to all the fallout from this week's episode, we have to touch on that. So we were wondering last week, why the heck didn't Jasmine apologize to Natalie when she finally got the opportunity? They were all sitting there on the couch in the studio, and Jasmine explained on Instagram saying this is why she didn't apologize to Natalie. She claims this person is a paid actor who's getting thousands to be on TV for this show and now for The Single Life. Remember, I've mentioned a few times it's been rumored that Gino has filmed for The Single Life. He will be appearing on the new season, and there is footage of Natalie filming with him. So that is what Jasmine is referring to here, but she's also saying that Natalie is just a paid actor for the show. Jasmine goes on. She says, I was not going to get in the same trap where she insults me, tries to physically attack me, but just my reaction makes it to TV. That's why I walked away as I should have at Dana's birthday party. Agreed, Jasmine. She continues, what would it take for this person to leave me alone? Answer, apologize to her so it makes sense why she's with Gino in The Single Life. And so I did. Is this going to make it to TV? I don't know. Jasmine claims that she did apologize to Natalie and we just didn't see it. I'm also really glad to hear Jasmine admit that she should have just walked away in the bar so many months ago and could have prevented all of this. Natalie wasn't going to let Jasmine go online and call her a paid actor without standing up for herself. Natalie's IG account is private, but Gino shared her response. Natalie said, this is a complete lie. I am not a paid actor. Please stop spreading these lies about me. No, and I'm sure you don't either, believe that Natalie was cast to play Gino's girlfriend on this show. Whatever Jasmine is exaggerating here or whatever she's saying, of course Natalie is getting paid to appear on the show. Look how Natalie's reputation has been attacked, how she says she's been traumatized. So Natalie definitely deserves to get a check from being on Happily Ever After, and that does not make her a paid actor. But Jasmine wasn't done. She addressed some other things that happened on part 1 of the tell-all. She wants us also to know that Natalie allegedly hit her first at the birthday party on the show. She says, at the party, I didn't know she was a paid actor, and she's the one who hit me first. I reacted. I shouldn't have. Just my reaction made it to TV. Just see how aggressive she was at the tell-all. She was playing this role again, but I knew better this time. Remember, Natalie exited the tell-all by saying, you're lucky that there's all these people here or one of us would have gotten hurt. So I believe, Jasmine, that is the kind of energy that Natalie came into the tell-all with. But we all saw what happened over and over again on the episode of the show where they met up at the bar at the birthday party. It was in the trailer and we watched it spread out over several episodes. So it was very clear to the audience that Natalie did not hit Jasmine first. She didn't lunge at her. It all plays out pretty clearly in the edit. So what the hell are you even saying, Jasmine? She still wasn't done. Jasmine goes on one more slide. This is the big bombshell, you guys. Jasmine claims, today my anxiety has been to the max. Watching that part where she, meaning Natalie, says she would hurt me. Jasmine says, oh, trust me, I knew she would. That's why I basically ran away. I should have never exposed myself to such a dangerous situation and risked to have this person close to me again. I thank God and security for protecting me that day. I was still healing from giving birth. That is true. And Jasmine pointed out a couple times on the episode this week that she's still postpartum. And I want us all to give her a lot of grace for that. She wasn't when she initially threw down with Natalie in the first place. And for her to claim that TLC put her in a dangerous situation, you know, Natalie acknowledged, like, there are all these people here, and that's why nothing happened between the two of us. That wasn't going to change. Jasmine was never going to find herself alone with Natalie. So is Jasmine's fear of Natalie and at the tell-all, is that justified? Perhaps. I'm really curious what you all have to say about this. I think it's going to become part of a bigger narrative that all indicates to us what Jasmine's next steps are going to be once Happily Ever After wraps up, because she was not done. But we got to get to the fallout from this week, from Tell All No Limits Part 2. We've talked every week about how Jasmine supposedly cheated on Gino and that he has this evidence that we still had not seen. Well, that blew up big time over the last couple days on social media, where Jasmine started things by challenging Gino. She wrote just a few days ago in this slide, she is saying, I am still waiting for the evidence of me cheating. 3 seasons and still nothing. And honestly, I was on her side with this. We all have been saying it too. We still haven't seen any evidence. Jasmine extended that challenge and Gino accepted hard and angrily. Gino posted pages and pages and pages of what he called evidence of Jasmine cheating. It's mostly phone records. And he does indicate, hey, here's the number. He shows a lot of phone numbers on these slides, something that Jasmine actually had to go and apologize to other cast members for their phone numbers being revealed. But Gino makes the point that in listing Matt's number, he also shows his little Google search history that says that that was indeed Matt's phone number. Okay, evidence number 1. He's got some more slides, more slides, more slides. And then the good stuff. Here are some pictures and videos that Gino says he's known about all year long. These were sent to him by fans in January who claimed to see Jasmine and Matt at Disney together. Woo! These pics and the very short video do not lie. It's definitely Matt and Jasmine. They aren't being loved up in front of people here, but we can tell that they are absolutely hanging out. The timing of this is that it was 2.5 to 3 months before Gino and Jasmine even left for the last resort. So long before they agreed to have an open marriage. The evidence is right there, and now I feel a little silly. We've been asking for it. We got it, and it really doesn't lie. Why was he holding on to that for so long is part of my question. Maybe it plays into his future story, but really we have to find out, where is Jasmine going with all of this? She's lashing out at the show, at TLC, at her fellow cast members. I'm going to tell you about all that pretty soon. Is she done with TLC in the show? She seems very jealous that Gino's the one who ended up on The Single Life, when it wouldn't really make sense for her to be telling her story with Matt there anyway. But she's been talking about that for almost a year. She is bothered that the cameras are continuing to follow Gino, and we have no evidence, there's no rumors or indication that Jasmine has continued to film after Happily Ever After. So perhaps if she's gearing herself up to not be part of this franchise anymore, that would make sense that she's building this narrative that TLC didn't protect her and that the treatment from her co-stars that I'm about to get to. Just keep all of this in mind and get those fingers going in the comments section, because we got to get to the bottom of all of this. What do you think about Jasmine accusing her Happily Ever After co-stars of racism? So here's what she says. On the first night at the mansion that everyone was asking her if she used Gino for a green card, Jasmine says, I didn't hear anyone asking, why did you share Jasmine's nudes and make her lose her job? Asking Gino that, or asking Gino, why didn't he drive her anywhere, help her get a driver's license? Why he didn't include her children in the visa? Why did he quit his job without telling her, even though he was free 24/7 and he still neglected her, she claims? Jasmine says that's because it's nicer to portray the narrative of the poor American being taken advantage of. See where she is calling out the network and the whole entire show, like from day one? This is where Jasmine goes really hard, and she's talking about Gino, saying, we have a white person with superiority complex yelling at the top of his lungs, get out of my country, I reported you to immigration, and taking zero accountability of the bad husband and person he was. Are people saying anything about it? She says, no, not on camera, nor are the people watching. Not even one cast member stepped up and said something about it. Well, we've kind of been standing up for her on the show and been pointing out a lot of that stuff, but I understand what Jasmine is saying here. And she even goes on to double down on the cast racism, posting, every time there's a Latino person in the show, see how we're treated by our own cast. It doesn't happen when they're Eastern European or from any other part of the world. Look at the current situation. Who is all the hatred directed to? Us, the Hispanic people. She is not wrong. This is a lot about the political climate in America too, and that definitely plays into all of this. She is smart to make those connections. I think what she's describing here is probably something that a lot of the Latin cast members have experienced and that a lot of the foreign cast members have said they experience. Of course, Jasmine feels like it's just her, but this does happen. This is the first time that someone has called it out, and Jasmine calling it racism is really a first here. I think everybody comes into this show with their own stereotypes, their own prejudices, even though a lot of them are dating someone from another country or they're dating an American. And I have to say, I think Jasmine does have a point here. She is not wrong. And it is becoming pretty clear that TLC chose Gino over her. I can't imagine why, if they thought he was going to get the sympathy, that Jasmine just isn't a sympathetic enough character for people to want to continue following her. I don't know why they would think that we want to see more of Gino, but they have kept filming him. And so now it feels like Jasmine is going scorched earth. Let's log off of social media for a minute and travel to the tell-all mansion. Let's get to recapping some of the episode. I want to know if you all noticed this. On the way to the tell-all mansion from the studio towards the beginning of the episode, the cast is talking about Gino and Natalie and saying that they really saw a chemistry between the two of them. I guess in the off moments from the tell-all, maybe behind the scenes, they were watching Gino and Natalie interact. And the rest of the cast seemed to feel that Gino and Natalie still have a chance at a relationship together and that it's really real, the feelings between the two of them. I put so much stock in that kind of conversation because it was clearly off the cuff. It wasn't something where the producer sat them down and said, talk to us about the chemistry you saw between Gino and Natalie. No, this was just the cast talking, and they seemed surprised too, but it was a very genuine conversation where they were almost congratulating Gino and being like, that could be a good thing for him. So I sort of respect that opinion, and it makes me wonder how close Gino and Natalie were getting behind the scenes. It looked on Happily Ever After like they broke up, but like I said, there's video of them on a date at a pizzeria that supposedly is going to air on The Single Life. So are they still together? Did the Single Life footage just come from when she was visiting him there and they maybe haven't seen each other and aren't back together for a long time? Or are they in a relationship right now? Did they continue after the whole bar fight and we just didn't know it? Oh, okay. Now I'm starting to understand why TLC is still following Gino and why they put him on The Single Life. Now we got to watch that to get any kind of satisfaction from all of this. You know, Elizabeth and Andre aren't going to let one other couple or couple plus Matt, whatever you call Gino and Jasmine, dominate the whole tell-all. They were showing out too. We got a little bit in the studio with them at the beginning, and then over at the house, the OG3 couples really try to hash it out. They seemed a little calmer there in their street clothes when they're sitting. They're finally getting some food. And I felt like maybe there was going to be resolution, even though I'm sick of hearing it be rehashed. And when Elizabeth came and she was like, are we talking about this again? Aren't you tired? Then the energy really changed. And they did not get to any more kind of a resolution at the house. Meanwhile, upstairs, everybody's having a lot more fun than the OG3 couples. This Truth or Dare game that they played brought us so much good footage for the trailer. It's been a lot of good extra scenes and gotten people talking and to engage on social media, but it didn't really give us a lot of good juice from the storylines or anything about the couples. I think if they would have gone truth more than dare, we could have gotten something out of that, but it was really a lot more throwaway than this whole, sexy truth or dare thing that we keep seeing and hearing about for the last few weeks. It felt a little flat to me. Jovi downstairs, he's got a much better idea. He tells Gino that they should call the numbers, duh. How has Gino never called the phone number that he is so sure is Matt's to check and see if Matt answered? I'm guessing there would have been some semantics with that because, of course, Jasmine would have told Matt what Gino's number is, but there could have been a way that Gino could have addressed this before we all knew. So I'm really glad that Jovi finally encouraged him to do so, but then that falls flat too. Like, come on. They should have been better at this. Elizabeth especially, you know how to stir the pot. Somebody should have made a plan like, okay, are they up there? Make sure there's a camera on him. Does he have his phone by him? And for her to just come up and be like, did someone text you? Come on. You should be so much better at this conniving and manipulating thing. Like Elizabeth's, oh, I can't find my phone. Matt, will you call it? Like, that could have gone so much better and been such a better TV moment than it ended up being, especially when we're all dying for some evidence that we hadn't gotten on social media yet when we were watching the show, for some evidence that Jasmine did in fact cheat on Gino. And then that's all we got was unanswered phone calls. But the heat comes off Jasmine a little bit. And of course, we just place that right back on one of the other women cast members because we're still talking about cheating. So Kara and Guillermo get their segment on stage at the tell all. And it sounded to me like Guillermo just really wants some respect. There isn't anything that Guillermo's really done wrong. She's trying to make a big deal out of that one night when he came home disheveled or whatever. I think her mom maybe shouldn't have gaslit her so hard in all of that. I wonder if her mom has regrets about that whole scene. But Kara really has nothing that Guillermo did. When she says he didn't try enough, that could be something. But her trying to make it about him not coming to her performance, which was, the only storyline that we got on the episode too, once he started talking about why he didn't want to be there, he was suspecting that she was using those opportunities to cheat. He didn't want to be around her when she was drinking. He found her behavior when she was out performing disrespectful. I took that as it wasn't really about her clothes and her career or how she was dressed and drinking. It's just really about respect to Guillermo. And he didn't want to go watch her act like a single woman. I do wish that they would have found a way for him to go and support her because maybe it could have been that simple. It doesn't seem like there is some huge conflict in the show or like anyone really did anything that bad. Perhaps if they could have talked this out, they could come together. If Kara did genuinely try to give up drinking for a couple weeks, that's really her putting some effort in. That could have really changed things for them. I do worry, though, that because she said, well, he wasn't doing anything different, nothing changed, so I just went back to drinking. So perhaps Kara was looking for a reason to not quit drinking. So in those couple of weeks, she was like, oh, he's still doing this, and he's still doing this, and he's still doing this, so grab me a martini. And when we learn that Kara's got this close friend that she hooked up with one time, DJ Javier, he's the one who's helping her line up her performances. And I understand how that could be a really, really valuable connection for her career. If this guy is known in their area for the kind of music that she performs, and he can help her, it sounds like even produce music, not just get appearances and performances, but help her get paid, help her find and build an audience. That is someone who's really valuable to her. She should have been friends, been like, hey, Guillermo, have you met DJ Javier? I think you guys could really get along. It sounds like DJ Javier is Latin as well. He's got a wife and kids. Why couldn't they just all be friends together then if they're just friends? Why couldn't Guillermo and DJ Javier's wife all come to the performances and we could all maybe have one cocktail and then go home to our kids? Be together and know that there's nothing untoward going on. Her keeping DJ Javier around, she's got a good excuse for the career, but I think Karen knows that she's playing with fire there. And who doesn't love having someone around who would want to bop you if you needed it, right? Like who doesn't love attention and for someone to be calling you beautiful, someone who wants to hug and kiss you when they see you? I'm sure that does feel great for her, especially if she doesn't feel she's getting that from Guillermo. But that is very dangerous, and look where it's gotten them. Neither of them seem very happy when we watch their marriage playing out on the show, and they definitely don't seem happy now being separated. I will give Kara this. She has always been who she is. They were talking about her drinking and how she likes to party and go out in the very first episodes of their show long ago. So I will give her that. She hasn't really changed. But I'm wondering if it's like Guillermo didn't want her to change, but he expected her to grow up a little bit when they got married and had a kid. And it certainly seems like Guillermo has done that. He wasn't the most responsible guy when we first met them either. But he really seems to have become a husband and a dad and have that be his priority, whereas Kara's got other things on her plate too. But even watching them talk it all out, I still don't understand why there's so much discord and why they can't bring it back together. She says they're not filing for divorce yet. She makes it sound like it's because of his visa. She said then he can just stay here. There's no issues with that. And I can appreciate that at least she isn't holding that over his head. But he says he's in pain and it's sad to watch them sit there. She's crying. I'm guessing that these two would be together and would maybe even be happily married together forever, if not for the cameras. If they didn't have to sit and analyze their relationship all the time, if she didn't get the attention and the following from the show and maybe never build her singing career, she was just the local real estate agent selling houses, they would have a very different life and they would perhaps be happily married. I just want to say once again that obviously this is all being left open-ended so that Kara and Guillermo can play out the actual divorce on the last resort. I have to keep saying that every single week so that when it happens, everyone can be like, Christy said so. And Shekinah and Sarper will be there too. And I'm kind of starting to think that perhaps Darcy and Georgie will be on that lineup. But we are getting way ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to the Happily Ever After Tell-All No Limits Part 2. We're going to take a little bit of a turn here. Let's cover what happened in the episode, and then I've got some bad news. So let's discuss this with that in mind, because Julia revealing her pregnancy on the show to the rest of the cast and then to her parents was a very sweet and beautiful moment. And the timing is that she is 6 months pregnant now here on the show. And she does even say, before she reveals it to everyone, she tells the cameras and the fans, admitting that she has had miscarriages before this pregnancy. And that's part of what made her so worried. We speculated about that here on the show, that perhaps that was where her fear was coming from, but they never admitted that on episodes of Happily Ever After. So that was something that really helped us all understand a little bit more Julia's attitude about not telling anyone. When they finally got to, it was maybe the sweetest, happiest, most beautiful tell-all moment we have ever gotten. To see people having actual happy tears and for there to be congratulations all around. Guillermo's even crying for Julia and Brandon. They got so much support and even some advice from the rest of the cast. It sounded like they really needed that in this moment. So it was just so lovely. She gets to call her parents. I think we have all fallen in love with Julia's mom and dad. And again, I need to know more about them and their relationship history too, because they seem very friendly, but they are allegedly divorced and hadn't talked to each other before Julia reconnected them. But, there was probably a phone call after she got off the phone. Did they call each other? It was 11:30 at night. They were like, oh my gosh, what great news. I'm so happy. So am I. Want to come over and have a drink and celebrate? I don't know. But it was such a beautiful moment. Julia's parents were over the moon to hear the news, but there is still no reveal to Ron and Betty. They finally came in at the very end of this episode. We have been teased on this so hard. What's going to happen when Ron and Betty finally join the tell-all? We've seen it in the trailer. There's been so much talk about it, and we got cut off again. They did get a little moment there where they talked for a second. It almost sounded like Betty was suspicious that Julia might be pregnant because she mentioned grandbabies pretty early on. Like, Ron and Betty definitely know that something is up, but they're not going to find out on this week's episode. That's how the show ended. So there's some bad news, but first, let's let Julia explain. So I think a lot of fans were probably questioning how real all of this was with it playing out on stage, her whispering to Sean, and we were wondering, did Julia and Brandon really make this choice on set in the moment to reveal her pregnancy? This is what Julia has to say. There were conversations with Brandon and the producer, and I was breathless when I started talking. It was the most emotional day for us. No, to be honest, we didn't plan to talk. Everything you saw was decided during filming. Wow, that's almost unbelievable when you consider how much time and energy goes into planning these things. What a crazy curveball for production to get day of. Julia goes on to say that her parents and Brandon's parents really did not know. She says only our friends knew, and of course the film crew who were with us almost all the time. Everything you saw in today's episode unfortunately can't be put into words, and you're only seeing a fraction of what's happening. So what she is referring to there is, let's talk timing a little bit. So this means that the baby would have been due about 6 or 8 weeks ago. They filmed the tell-all at about the end of June. She said she was 6 months pregnant there. So that was around the time when Julia was posting a lot of alarming things. You all remember it was photos of her in a doctor's office. She was talking about struggling with her mental health and needing support. She was really going through it around that time when it seems like she would have been having her baby. So here is the answer to all of that. We've all been speculating for many months now on the timing of the pregnancy. We have our answer now, and it is certainly not the one that we or Brandon and Julia or anyone would want. Here it is. This is Julia posting on Instagram a photo of her and Brandon kind of smiling, and she says, "After the rain, there should be a rainbow. We are waiting for our rainbow." So a rainbow baby is usually what it's referred to after a couple has had a miscarriage and then they have a healthy baby. So this is Julia and Brandon, I believe, confirming that they do not currently have a baby. They are waiting to get pregnant and have a healthy baby in the future. That is so incredibly sad. I cannot imagine how difficult not just that has been. So many people deal with miscarriages, and it's, from what I hear, one of the most horrible things that a couple, a woman or a man, can go through. And for them to have to do it amongst all of our speculation about her being pregnant, about the timing of the baby, after having done this huge reveal and having this beautiful moment at the tell-all, I just cannot imagine how heartbreaking this all has been for them. And it's so complicated with the timing of the show. I really hope that at least now Brandon and Julia can maybe have some peace. We fans have our answers. I know I'm gonna be leaving it alone for a while. I hope everyone is just sending Julia and Brandon a lot of love. And man, that is not where we thought this storyline was going to go. I was so convinced that Ron and Betty were at home with the baby, that she had the baby at the timing of the tell-all, and I was so wrong about that. So a lesson to be learned about speculating, I'm sure. And again, just want to extend my condolences, and I hope you all do too, to Julia and Brandon, who, despite outrightly saying it, it's pretty clear what they're dealing with here. And I'm sure we are going to continue to get on-camera updates from them. So hoping for some peace for them. And next week, we will be addressing all the rest of the couples. Here is what's going down on Happily Ever After Tell-All No Limits Part 3. The attention will turn to Georgie and Darcy, as Kara says she suspects that Georgie is out in the Miami streets, bigging up the ladies. So this is when Darcy is going to come at him for the flirting. He's hanging out and whispering in people's ears with his arm around some woman. So we got to hear what that's all about. And we are not done with Jasmine and Gino and Matt either, everybody. Jasmine will reveal at the tell-all that Matt's mom told her that she wants him to marry a Romanian woman, not Jasmine. Not only that, but Matt's mom has a certain woman in mind, and it sounds like this woman is just ready to go, waiting around for Matt to come to the realization that things are not going to work out with Jasmine. The conversation so far has just been about, does Jasmine want to be with Matt? Will she stick around? Does she want to get married to him? But maybe there's another woman that will catch Matt's eye. Maybe that would make things a lot easier for him with his family. You know, he's really turned into a different person being a dad. So we need to hear from Matt on that as well. And then also the cast will talk to Matt at the house about how long is he going to wait for Jasmine? What are the plans for this engagement? And I just think we are really going to get to know Matt a little bit better and find out what his true intentions really are and what Jasmine's true intentions are with him. So that will be very exciting. Normally, we would roll on over into a recap for The Other Way, but there is just so much to discuss with Happily Ever After. And to be honest, with Jasmine accusing her co-stars of racism and Julia and Brandon's horrible news this week, it's very heavy and dark, and I think that we're probably good now. So why don't y'all tune back in next week for more Happily Ever After, and then we'll cover 2 episodes of The Other Way. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me. This tell-all has been giving us more every week. We have, I think, 2 more weeks left, part 3 and 4. And then, of course, before the 90 days will premiere as well. So there is just so much to keep an eye on. Come back here and hang out with me. Tell me your opinion on everything. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, because that's where you can watch 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered and get all the receipts that I'm talking about, all the posts and all the videos and the clapbacks. You know you want to see it. So make sure that you watch, and also follow at 90 Day Fiancé Pod on Instagram. We're building some community up over there. I did a big special episode of 90 Day Fiancé Unfiltered where I covered all the 8 crazy new couples that are going to be featured on Before the 90 Days, including Hunt for Love star Elise. So make sure you go back a couple episodes and listen to that so we can gear up for 8 crazy new couples. Man, it sort of feels like we've been talking about Gino and Jasmine and Brandon and Julia our whole lives sometimes. Oh, is that just me? Because this is my whole life? Well, I'm glad that you all made it your life for at least a little half hour here with me. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.